Welcome to the Bree Pod. I'm here with me, Bree. It's been a while, per usual, but I think this is our new norm, so I'm totally for it. Um, I wanted to share uh, Motherhood Unfiltered because, as you know, we kind of live in a very filtered world. And it's not to say that I do not filter myself because I do. Like, you'll see selfies out there. Did I use a filter? 100%. Um, and, you know, do I post the best photos of what happened? Yes, it's kind of the social norm at this point. I know I always say that I want to be outside of the norms, but honestly, I'm human. I'm gonna go down the route of, where we're going. But in Motherhood Unfiltered and in my Unfiltered series, this is where I want to take the filters off and just be raw and real. And even though I try to do that in every episode, I try to name it Unfiltered just so that you know that it is going to be the raw and real, not you know, the perfect side of like everything is amazing and I feel such an amazing person as a mother and perfectly perfect. I can't do that because that would not be true. There are things that are beautiful and there are things that are not beautiful, but I think that we all feel that way in general. And I think we're afraid to say these things out loud because of the harsh judgment that comes from it. Because I think we've talked about this in more than a few episodes how judgment is so strong with everything. It's not just being a mom, it's anything that you do, you get judgment from somewhere for something. So I wanted to share my version of Unfiltered. I do want to note this though. I know when I first posted this, I could feel it within my soul and being that there are people that saw Motherhood Unfiltered. This girl only has one child. She's only been doing it for less than, you know, like we're at almost 9 months. And what does she have to offer? Or maybe that was my own projection of what I felt or I thought. And I share this part because this is the raw and real me. I'm constantly questioning myself as a mother. I'm constantly questioning myself as a person. I'm like, am I doing this right? Is he alive? Is he this? Is he that? So I don't actually know if people thought this, but I felt that because I shamed myself and guilted myself before I even got on here. And if you did feel this way, I just want to give you this perspective and thought. If you feel that what I said triggered you to think the thoughts that I'm thinking about myself, just know number one, I thought it for myself first. Because I'm a freaking hypocrite. Not hypocrite, but hypocritical is what I mean of myself. So I'm the first one to be hypocritical. And secondly, um, I think it's important to remember that my experience does not take away from your experience. I will never do that. I do not like the world of competition. I do not like the world of I had it worse than you or I had it better than you or whatever. Like I hate that route because it almost lessens experiences as itself. Because everybody has their experiences. Everybody has their own version of life and their path. And I do not ever want this to be a space where it is so one-sided like that because that is the toxicity that is not anything I'm looking for. When I was younger, I followed through with this toxicity. I went down the rabbit hole of the competing, all the nasty stuff that you learn. And I just like, as I get older, I realize like there are things that are just not worth it. And one of them being making everything a negative or making everything, well, she does it better, they do it better, I'm this, that, because I'm already hard on myself now. I do not need to add more of that, and neither do you. You do not need to put that on yourself. We put way too much nasty, shaming, guilting on ourselves, uh, and it's just not, it's not good. It's not healthy. So please know that when I speak of my experience, I'm not coming from a place of saying, I'm better than you, or you don't understand, or, whatever it is. I want you to know that I see you and you're a damn good mama or daddy, or, whatever it is that you are. You're a damn good parent. So please do not feel that way when you listen to this episode. Because at one point in time, maybe you're in my shoes and you're at a further level than me. Uh, but I'm just sharing my experience. And if you want to share yours, I'm also open to having you come on this podcast too, because I love sharing not just stuff that happens with me, but other people's stories. So DM me. But anyway, I'm going to get into it now. So, Motherhood Unfiltered isn't just going to be like an episode where it's like, he does this wrong, and this happens, and this is this. More so just unfiltered of what motherhood has looked like for me. I know that next week my son will be 9 months. So I know that there's so much more that's going to come. And it has not happened yet. So I know, things are not, like, I always feel like every day is a new level. And I know that sounds really kind of weird because it's almost making my son sound like a game. But I found that every time he grows and gets older and does all these things, like, it's another new level I need to learn and understand. And I only use the level because that's kind of what happens in a game is, you get to level 1, you're like, "Oh, I did it, I think." And then you get then level 2 hits and you're like, "Whoa, nope." It's getting difficult. Not saying it's been really difficult, but I'm just saying, I've realized that every day is a new day and a new lesson, and learning more about my son's personality, learning more about myself, and am I projecting onto him? Am I trying to gentle parent? Am I trying to, trying to figure out my own parenting skills and like what I want to do with that. So it's been a big lesson in just trying to learn what I'm gonna do with it. And so every day has been a new experience because I'm getting to know his personality more. I'm getting to know like what makes him happy, what kind of frustrates him, and I get to watch him navigate through his emotions. And can I say that I'm perfect and I am the perfect parent and I'm just like, yay, you're the sweetest little baby and that's that? No, I get frustrated because it's a new level. It's normal to be human and get frustrated. So I think at most I'm just learning the ways of being a mama, and I'm always questioning myself. I'm always like, am I good enough? Am I worthy of being a mother? And I think that is normal, but not talked about often. Like it is talked about, but not really. And it happens a lot. Like the biggest question that I always ask still to this day, since he was born, is he alive? Is, is he breathing? Um, did I, did I do enough? Like when he first fell off the bed. Okay, we don't talk about that a lot because like, oh no, child abuse. Somebody's gonna call, you know, on me because you're over worried and you're overthinking. And so when he first fell off the bed, it was like, oh my God, my son, like I hurt him, I killed him. You think of the most drastic thought process imaginable, and I'm sure for many of you that were here and now you're in a different level than me, higher than me, in the toddler stage or maybe even the teen stage. Like when you're in this level of where I'm at, which is still, he's still a babe, uh, you freak the fuck out and you're like, oh God, he's gonna be hurt or whatever. And the good news is that he had his helmet. But it's also normal for a baby to fall off a bed or a couch. And maybe some of you are like, that never happened. Well, honestly, props to you. That's props. But if it did happen, you know that first shock and that first fear and like the gasp of air, like, "Ugh," and then crying. I mean, I did a lot of crying. I was like, "Oh no, my baby." And I'm not trying to make a mockery of it or joke. It's just we put so much pressure on ourselves that sometimes it kind of is like, whoa, girl, take a breather. Sometimes I need to hear that. Like, I need to take a breather because I overthink. And the more I think about like when he's gonna make friends or go to birthday parties or go to maybe in the future go to daycare, school, I'm like, oh no, I don't want that. Because I don't want him to feel parts of life that suck. Because there are parts that suck. But at the same time, I also need him to be able to live because that is a part of being human is living. So these are like all the things that go through my head. It's very squirrel-like, honestly. So motherhood has made me a squirrel. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like I've always been like a squirrel, but it hasn't been perfect, and I think that is what makes it perfect because it is just life. It is the imperfection that is perfection. It is trying to be a good mom every day and hoping to succeed. But trying also not to put so much pressure on myself where I lose myself in worry or fear or judgment. Because, I mean, of course, we're all going to judge um, other people. It's normal to do that, but we've got to be careful and give grace because we are our own worst critics and probably the biggest judges of all to ourselves. So, that's why I share this stuff because I don't want to pretend um that everything is golden and it's sunshine and rainbows. And yes, I only have one child. And I know some of you are probably still rolling your eyes a little bit, or I'm projecting onto you. I don't know. But I need you to know that again, it does not take away from your experience. I see you, I feel you, or as best as I can from what I can understand, you know what I mean? But it's okay to know that you're trying your best. And even if you don't think you're at your best, just the fact that you're trying is a beautiful deal. And sometimes I wish that we got more or heard that more, whether it be from our family, friends, partner, whatever. And I'm not saying that I don't hear that, but sometimes I think it needs to be heard a little bit more because a lot of times what is louder to me from what I have found is like I could be told many times, "Oh, you're a great mom. You do amazing things with your son, blah blah blah." But once you tell me one thing like, "Well, you shouldn't have done that." I focus on that more than the 50 beautiful comments that was told to me. So it is kind of ironic that I'm saying we should hear that more, yet I focus on the negative more. But I think it's just normal. This is the unfiltered part. These are the thoughts that go through my brain that I think about every day, and it just consumes me sometimes. But I think that it's good to share this because I know I'm not alone in this. I know that there are others struggling and feeling this way and not sure if they're good enough as a mother. But it's important to know that you are. And yes, do I need to listen to this myself? 1000%. Am I going to? I don't know. I'm still probably going to question. But motherhood has been a journey. It has showed me a different side of myself, and it showed me pieces of me of like, who is Brianna or Brianna, depending on who you talk to, or Brie, versus who is mom Brie, like the version of me that's the mom. And so that's kind of what I've been focusing on lately is figuring out who is Brie and who is mom side of me. And I've been doing that because I don't want to get lost in being a mom and not. focusing on what does Bree want. Not to say that I like shouldn't be worried about my son or anything, because obviously, but I think that we have to figure out who is that, like remembering who we are and the pieces that we want from it, and to keep somehow in some way in the best way that we can so that we don't lose ourselves, because I've seen so many beautiful souls get so caught up in that word of mom that they forget who they were as themselves. And it's not to say that that's a bad thing. That's kind of the whole societal norm is to do that. But it's ends up becoming an issue later in life because then there is the whole, resentment, or not towards your child or anything, but just resentment towards yourself and forgetting or losing yourself. And I think that what I've learned from many people around me that have children is that the biggest advice that I feel like they've given is to not lose myself in it too. Like still be a mom, but not lose me. And I've been trying, that's why I kept therapy and all the things in my life so that I could continue to be present in that moment, in that thought of like who is Brie? Because I try to do my best as being a mom, but do I do my best as being Brie? I don't know. So that's kind of where I've been focused, like what I've been focused on. So I've been like doing the whole, how like if you change your hair color or whatever, it's like you get a haircut, you feel like a new woman kind of deal. I've been trying to do things like that, like getting a new hair color, figuring out what my new style is as mom. Cause before, like, it's not to say I had a bad style before or anything, but just trying to find different ways to find who is Brie and how do I keep a piece of her with me. Because I don't want to be lost. Um, so I did start to make goals for myself when it comes to the things that I love. So I have goals for my hobbies. I have goals for my career, but I also have goals as a mom. So it's not like, again, I'm not saying I'm taking away the piece of being a mother. I understand that, like you can't be full-blown selfish with a child because that's not really beneficial to your children, but I can still find a way to be me and be a mom. And that's kind of been like figuring out that balance because it's not always a perfect balance. Just like work and home life, it'll never be a perfect balance, but whatever that balance is that you can have that works and, you know, ca- can be what you need it to be, that's helpful. So when I say this as a mom, I'm being unfiltered. I'm just sharing what it looks like to me. And to me, it's figuring out who is Brie. And then the other side is like, because I've been going to counseling, and many of you know why, and if you don't, just go to the very first episode. It'll explain everything. Or the start. Um, one of the biggest questions I asked my therapist is when you are a survivor, well, there's two words out there. There is victim and survivor. The way that people view themselves is hopefully more so as a survivor than a victim because you can hear the differences just in names of them. But I try to use the word survivor because victim, with the negative connotation it has, it's not really my vibe. So going back to being a survivor of trauma that has happened and getting through those obstacles and getting through healing. Not to say I'm fully healed, but definitely in a better place of where I was to where I am, which you definitely hear that as I progress in these episodes. I asked the question like, after you've gone through this trauma and you've done some healing and you're continuing to grow and continue to healing, my biggest question was, what happens next? And I found myself like watching many shows of survivors that have gone through some crazier stuff than me, that have gone some, through life in such a wild way, and just seeing like what happened after. And a lot of times you don't really get to see that. They don't always show you like they show you like, this person was able to stay away from their abuser for however many years and doing well in that sense, but like that what next question. So I decided that this year I wanted to find out my purpose. Like, now that I've gone through what I've needed to go through and I'm still growing, and not saying it stops, it doesn't stop. What is next for me? What is my purpose? And I know like a part of my purpose is to mother my son and to help him navigate the world as best as I can, knowing as well that he has free will, but with discipline as well. Not saying he like just runs the roost or anything. But then the other side was, well, what is my purpose as myself? Like, do I have anything that great to offer? Do I have any skills or valuable um pieces of me that is like going to be beneficial to others? These are the thoughts that I have because it's like, what happens next? So I don't have the answer at this moment. I have an idea of things that I'm doing. And I'm hoping that like for as you know, I celebrate the new year with a new episode for the next season. I'm hoping that I'll be able to answer this question a little bit better. Um, and where I take myself because I'm very excited to see like we're in June right now. So what happens when I get to January? But again, I also want to be present in the moment. So I'm not trying to rush that, but that is where I guess life has led me so far is how do I show up as best as I can as a mom because I'm going to mess up. I'm not going to be perfect. I am not perfect. I'm going to do things that, you know, are not maybe correct. Uh, but I'm doing the best as I can with what I know and what I'm learning, and what I'm open to learning because a lot of people do give you some very unsolicited advice. Not to say that I haven't been given good advice, but I really learned that once you have a child, unsolicited advice is seriously a constant thing that happens. And it comes from people that you may not even talk to that often. So it's kind of interesting how that works out. But anyway, I decided that it was time for me to come back and to share these pieces of myself because, um, you know, maybe you are feeling this way as I am. And I always assume, like, when I'm in my head, I always assume I'm alone and that it's only me in this world feeling this way. And I think that's not the greatest way to look at it, but sometimes you get caught up in that. And so when I come on here and share this, and then I get the feedback from you guys, and I get the private messages, and you guys are telling me, like, I totally understand that, or this is how I feel, and this is where I'm at, it really feels good because I don't feel alone, even though in the moment of that frustration or upset, I feel alone. So I think that's what I've liked about the podcast the most is that the support system is definitely awesome. Like I did not expect it. And also I've never thought that I've felt worthy enough of a support system. And I know some of you are probably listening to this being like, what the heck? I support you. But that is the raw and realness of it. As a human, I don't always feel like I'm worthy of things. I do not feel worthy as a mother. I do not feel worthy as a friend or, you know, it really takes a toll just in general on yourself. Um, like, and I'm learning slowly but surely that it's not true. That a lot of my confirmation bias that goes on in my head is not accurate. And a lot of the stuff that I allow hold weight over me is not beneficial or truthful. For example, um, we were taking a photo of our son. We were doing a hike, and we did kind of like the Simba photo, like, ah. And I overheard this guy that passed us say, "That's what pisses me off when people do that. There's no reason for people to do that." Um, which, side note, and this is sad that I have to say this because this goes back to me like focusing so solely on what he said. In the position that we were in, we were not like super close to the edge where we would drop our son, number one. Number two, um, we made sure that we were in a position where we were in a safe zone because we would never, ever hurt our son. Ever. I mean, and even with him falling off the bed, like, it was not our intention to have him fall off the bed. And accidents are going to happen in that sense. But when it comes to hiking in the mountains, we try to be extra cautious and extra careful because things can happen. I mean, you read all the time about people that are like taking this special selfie or TikTok and then they end up like poof over the edge. However, in this case, it was not in a bad way. Like, he was safe. But because I question myself so much as being a mother, and I only focus on the negative of what I'm told instead of listening to the good, because I have to tell you, there's a lot of people that are saying good, and I'm sure you have that too, but it's hard for us sometimes to believe what they're saying because we are the worst critics of ourselves. So we're like, this is where confirmation bias comes in, and you'll be like, well, um, we maybe we were too close to the edge. Maybe this did happen. Maybe I'm not being as vigilant as I should be of his surroundings. So that thought swirls and it kind of took over the moment because the true moment that I was supposed to focus on was being present with my family and having fun and being surrounded by this beautiful, beautiful scenery in Sedona. But the only thing I could focus on was what pissed off that guy, which he didn't have any children with him. Not to say that if he did or didn't, that should affect anything. But I let that like take over and I started to feel off and then I started to tell Jeremy, don't get too close, even though he wasn't. And then in some cases I found that when I do that, I'm almost projecting onto him and then making him feel like he's a bad parent, even though he doesn't take it to heart as in depth because I think he knows that a lot of the stuff that I say comes from just constantly overthinking and whatever, but like it really bugs me that I let that take over the rest of that time. And Jeremy, in many cases, has had to talk me through it and be like, Bree, he's not even anybody that we know, and it doesn't matter. Like, our son is safe. And, my therapist has also tried to help with this too. But that's why I say I'm still healing and growing because there are still things inside of me that I like smash into my face and being like, you're a bad mother. You're bad. So I share this because I don't think that I'm alone with this. I know I said that I think that way, but that is just, again, goes back to confirmation bias. And for some of you that are like, wait, what is confirmation bias? I will let you know. Confirmation bias is basically when, let's say, your coffee spills. So you're going to say, like, well, everything bad happens to me. So then let's say like you get into an accident that day or like a little accident, nothing crazy. Or you know, you you're clumsy more that day, you drop things and you're like, see, everything bad happens to me. That is confirmation bias. A lot of times we really love confirmation bias because it validates what we're trying to look for. And I know that sounds kind of crazy because you're like, well, why would you want to try to look for you being as a bad mom? But it's not that I'm necessarily trying to look for that. It's just what that inner anxious person is saying. It's like, look, see, you're a bad mom, you know? Uh, and that happens every day. And then I have to walk myself through it and get myself to a place of realizing that it's not true and use the tools that I've used from therapy to help me. But the thing is, to that going back to that story from Sedona, I did not get over that, what that guy said, because it's still stuck in my brain. And that's what sucks, is that it's something that I should at this point have been like, he doesn't mean anything. You don't even know the guy. He doesn't know you. Like I basically feel like I want to go get measuring tape, measure from Jeremy's foot to the edge and be like, see, this is how far we are. But that is not what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to, like, define my life on that guy or define my motherhood or being a mother on that guy, but I do. So this is me being unfiltered. I don't trust myself as a mother, but I am a mother. And please don't take those words. I'm like, well, now I gotta call the child services. I don't mean it like that. I just mean as a normal human being trying to raise another human being. It is just, it's a new world. And the anxiety that I had before is 10 times worse. The, um, the nasty things that I said to myself are 10 times worse. And the things that I say I don't want to be, or the person that I don't want to be, I end up feeling like I am being. For example, like, you know, on those nights that my son didn't sleep because he didn't feel well, but I didn't notice that he had, for example, we've been feeding Liam more solid foods. So one day I didn't really notice that he hadn't pooped that day. Um, I kind of didn't think about it. And so that whole night he had been really upset and he was crying and we didn't get a lot of sleep. And then the next day he like pooped 3 times in a row and I'm like, wow. And one of my coworkers was like, maybe he was constipated. And I was so mad at myself because I'm like, I should have known better. I should have thought that way. I should have done that route. But the thing is, those are the things that I'm learning how to lessen um myself with, because if I focus solely on the negative and the bad and what I'm not doing right, it takes away from the present beautiful moment. Just the fact that he's alive, just the fact that he is happy and he is safe. But I'm so worried about these stupid things. And I'm not saying I should say this. I'm not saying that me not noticing the constipation is not stupid. In my sense, in my mind, I think I should have noticed, but here we are again, going in that like circling thing. So, motherhood, man. Basically, it has amplified everything more so. And so, I'm not saying that, um, boo hoo, I need your sympathy or something like that. I'm saying this is just where I am. Just like venting, getting it off of my chest. I'm not looking for a solution, just venting it out because it's where I'm at in life right now. It's what's been going on um and just navigating through it. And I bring you all along this journey because you've been with me since day one and have followed me through some crazy stuff, some good stuff, some bad stuff, some fun learning stuff. And I really appreciate you guys coming along this journey with me because it has been huge in so many ways. Like, I am so grateful for all of you. And per usual, like I always like to tell you guys, I felt very squirrely in this episode, and hopefully it makes sense. But right now, the best thing that I can say to you is don't be so hard on yourself. And I have to kind of ping that back to myself too, like boomerang it, because I feel like we do that so well, but we don't do enough owning the good stuff. Maybe we don't think that we're worthy of that. Whatever it may be, I think it's important that we see the beauty that we do bring. Um, and it's not selfish to do that. I say this because, I feel like we definitely throw out the word selfish way too much. And you also hear me say that like a ton of times on these episodes. But we really should be in a sense, quote unquote, selfish. Um, because you can still be humble, obviously, but we should be able to see ourselves in a beautiful light because we do a lot of the negative light, and that's not fair to you or to your children. Because in our children's eyes, maybe depending on maybe they're having a moment where they're upset because they don't know how to navigate their emotions. But in our children's eyes, we are beautiful to them. And sometimes I think we focus way too much on what we're thinking and not enough on the beauty that we provide and give. And know that you are loved, you are worthy, and you are cherished. And I am proud of you. Until next time on the Pod. Bye!